We ask that you look down from the heavens on this day on us. And if there's anything we did that's causing you to look away, let us repent from those things. Any words that were spoken throughout the week, any action that was done, any unclean thoughts in our minds, we repent and ask for forgiveness in the name of your Son, YahushuA, so that we may have favor in your eyes. Father Elohim, as we worship you on your day, we ask that you send your Ruach, your Holy Spirit, down to comfort us, to minister to us, to bring into remembering your law, statutes, and commandments. In this way, I ask in your Son, Yahushua's name, long live the King. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom.
How are we doing this wonderful, wonderful day, this wonderful afternoon? Awesome. Hallelujah. We thank Yah for traveling mercy and getting us here today, that we may praise and worship Him on this holy day, for He is more than worthy, more than He deserves it. He deserves it. For He has created us, and we have not created ourselves. And He has got us here today. Though many people have perished, we just continue to bless His name, for He is good. All right. Before we get started in our praise and worship today, does anybody have any testimonies they would like to share? Any good news in your life? Anything that you've overcome or overcoming that you'd like to share with the body to encourage, to edify, to exhort while it's still yet today? You pull down your mask, I bet you want to say.
No. Well, I can just give glory to God because this has been a blessed week. A lot of firsts happened, even with the ladies, being able to fellowship together. So drawing in from wisdom from across our sisters is a beautiful thing. So I give God glory for that. It allows us to have sisters to talk to.
Hallelujah. Thank you for sharing, Peggy. All right. Hallelujah. We just thank Yah that we are here today. We're able to fellowship and worship together in unity, without fear, with comfort. Because we know it's not like this all the way around the world. So we just bless Yah for what we have today. But we know not tomorrow, but we thank Him today. Hallelujah.
take the failure, you take the weakness, you set your treasure in jars of clay. So take this heart here, I'll be your vessel. The world will see your life in me. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. Oh, I can see it now. Oh, I can see the love in your eyes, laying yourself down, raising up the broken to rise. Not by might, not by power, by your spirit, God. Send your spirit, God. Not by might, not by power, by your spirit, God. Send your spirit, God. You are the fire, we are the temple. You are the voice, we are your song. You are our Yah, we are your people. You are the light, we stand in awe. We stand in awe of you. We stand in awe of you. access into your love, into your life. Grace upon grace, beauty for ashes. You come to us, we come alive. We stand in all of you. We stand in all of you. Not by might, not by power, by your Spirit, God. Send your Spirit, God. Not by might, not by power, by your Spirit, God. Send your Spirit, God. Not by might, not by power, by your Spirit, God. Send your Spirit, God. Not by might, not by power, by your Spirit, God. Send your Spirit, God. Breathe, come and breathe on us. Spirit, breathe, come and breathe on us. Spirit, breathe, come and breathe on us. Spirit, breathe, come and breathe on us. We stand in all of you. We stand in all of you. Not by might, not by power, by your Spirit, God. Send your Spirit, God. Not by might, not by power, by your Spirit, God. Send your Spirit, God. Breathe, come and breathe on us. Spirit, breathe, come and breathe on us. Spirit, breathe, come and breathe on us. Not by might, not by power, by your Spirit, God. Send your Spirit, God. Not by might, not by power, by your Spirit, God. Send your Spirit, God.
Hallelujah. Praise God. Praise God. You may be seated. Hallelujah.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shalom. Good to see you all. All right. What did that word long-winded mean? Too long? Now I heard they had President Trump spoke for an hour, man. So I think I can
No.
go with it. Like they say, he was talking about a bunch of silliness right now. So we're gonna talk about something that's gonna do what it do. Praise God. Now I was this actually This is going to be a 2-part study anyway, maybe even 3. But this here just the foundation and what we're going to discuss. Kind of brethren on a Tuesday night call, they kind of got a glimpse of it already. But I just want to lay the foundation on the second part, y'all will. Yes, it's going to be a little more, what they say, meat of the matter. But I want to, anybody heard, well, let's go straight to it, Brother Nick. Let's go to Romans chapter 10. Romans chapter 10. Good to see you all. It's kind of like a controversial type topic, but when we see the whole picture, hope you all, when you get each part of it, kind of see the full circle. So Romans chapter 10, you're going to start at verse 1. I'm sorry. It's cool. You want to? You can. It's just for you want to. You can just. Whenever you ready, Brother Nick.
Yes, sir. The book of Romans, chapter 10, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
It says, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to Elohim for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of Elohim, but not according to knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
For they being ignorant of Yahuwah's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of Elohim.
And read verse 4.
For Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth.
Hallelujah. All right. So this here is kind of, because I do appreciate, again, this is coming from interpretation on it, and I just try to bring other scripture, let the scripture interpret themselves. But anybody heard about the end of the law? When you see that word end, it basically means the goal, the aim. Like Yeshua is the aim. He's the goal of the law. When people say that end of the law, they want to say that this is, the definition where you kind of see they appreciate, not saying the law is done away. So they say, well, he's just he's what you call the model of it. So when the law represented, he's where that verse 4 where it says the end of the law, is basically where it's saying he's the goal. Anybody heard that before? I want to look at that word end right there. You might see the next slide. Okay. It's the lexicon G5056. I don't know if you can pull that up in yours. You can see that next. But I can read it. Telos, or some say it's telos. So telo, it says that to set out definite point or goal, and they say properly the point aim as, or what people say, he's the aim, he's the goal, but they take this here and they kind of see that definition there. Then it says the conclusion of an act or state or termination. What I like to see, that word is used 42 times, and out of 35 times, it does say end, like mean it's the end thereof. For example, that word is used, I don't have it here, Brother Nick, but can you go to, I want to say Luke chapter 1. See an example on how that's used as well. And I want to just read verse 32 and 33. It's talking about the Messiah. Luke chapter 1, verses 32 and 33.
Yes, sir. Verse 32.
Mm-hmm.
He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest. And Yahuwah Elohim shall give unto him the throne of his father David.
Mm-hmm.
And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever. And of his kingdom there shall be no end.
that end there, is that the same end?
Yes, sir.
And so we're gonna say, let's say we put gold there, to his kingdom there should be no gold. All right, mean no what? There's no what? There's no end to it, right? So when we see this here, we're going to discuss about that he is the end of the law for righteousness. And that word for righteousness is the key. Not saying he's the end of the law, where the law is abolished. But we talking about, when we see the whole picture, again, I just want to lay the groundwork, but he is the end of the law for righteousness. And we're going to see some examples of this here. Let's go up to chapter 9 now, Brother Nick, and let's see an example of why is this. Let's read Romans 9. We're going to start at verse 31. Read 31 and 32. Romans chapter 9, and we're going to start at verse 31.
Yes, sir. Verse 31. But Israel, which followed after the law of righteousness, had not attained to the law of righteousness.
So let's stop there. So they have not attained to the law of righteousness. What do you mean they have not attained to the law of righteousness? Exactly. They didn't meet it, right? It basically didn't equip them, right? So it says that have not attained to the law of righteousness. Go ahead.
Wherefore, because they sought it not by faith, but as it were by the works of the law, for they stumbled at the stumbling stone.
So then they said again, but as it were the works of the law, they sought it not by faith, but by the works, right? By their own doing. And what do you think that, who that stumbling stone right there? That's Yeshua. That stumbling stone, right? Now we talked about previously on the call, but we were saying that our righteousness, in the sense that the law of righteousness, and let's see why they didn't attain it, and why it's so important that we see that it's not where to go, because they're gonna go not showing the true message of why Yeshua is who he is. All right. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 6. Pick it up at verse 20, Brother Nick. Deuteronomy chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 20.
It said the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 20.
Mm-hmm.
And when thy son asketh thee in time to come, saying, what mean the testimonies and the statutes and the judgments which Yahuwah Elohim had commanded you?
Verse 21.
Then thou shalt say unto thy son, we were Pharaoh's bondmen in Egypt, and Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand.
Mm-hmm.
And Yahuwah showed signs and wonders, great and sore, upon Egypt, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household, before our eyes. And he brought us out of thence, that he might bring us in to give us the land which he swore unto our fathers.
Verse 24.
And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our Elohim, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day.
So what was the command? That they observe these statutes to fear him, they're good always, that he may preserve us alive as it is this day. That he may preserve us alive. And now read the last verse 25 right there.
And it shall be our righteousness, if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our Elohim, as he commanded us.
Whose righteousness is going to be? It'd be our righteousness, right? What's that condition right there? If. Yeah, if, right? So that's the big key right there. That's a condition. It will be your righteousness if you do something though. If you basically obey it. And we saw it said Israel, they didn't attain to it But they didn't seek it out of faith, but out of the works. And you're gonna see the difference on this here. Stay in Deuteronomy, look at 30. Let's read that one verse. Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19.
Yes, sir. Verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live.
So is that a choice? Did he give you a choice? Right? He told us it'd be good for you to do what? Choose life. Choose life. Right? Because if you don't choose life, and choosing life basically means what? Obeying the commandments, right? That's life right there. So we see our righteousness will be if we obey the commands of Yah. Told us to choose life and to go well with us. All right? Let's go look at some more. Let's look at Ezekiel chapter 20. Ezekiel chapter 20. And this is what we're going to see about. They knew, they had the law. It was established in their midst, right? And we kind of know the story. We're just recapping it. But I just want to bring it here so we can see this foundation. Ezekiel 20, and we're going to start at verse 3, Brother Nick. We'll read 3 to 13. Ezekiel chapter 20, picking up at verse 3 to 13.
Yes, sir. Ezekiel 20, verse 3. It says, Son of man, speak unto the elders of Israel, and say unto them, Thus said my sovereign Yahuwah, Are ye come to inquire of me, as I live? Said my sovereign Yahuwah, I will not be inquired of by you. Wilt thou judge them, son of man? Wilt thou judge them? Cause them to know the abominations of the fathers, and say unto them, Thus says my sovereign Yahuwah, In the day when I choose Israel, and lifted up my hand unto the seed of the house of Jacob, and made myself known unto them in the land of Egypt.
So he said that he made himself known to them when?
In the land of Egypt.
In the land of Egypt. Okay, go ahead.
When I lifted up my hand unto them, saying, I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. In the day that I lifted up my hand unto them to bring them forth of the land of Egypt into a land that I espied for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Then I said unto them, Cast ye away every man the abominations of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. But they rebelled against me, and would not hearken unto me. They did not every man cast away the abominations of their eyes, neither did they forsake the idols of Egypt. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them, to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of the land of Egypt.
Can you stop right there, Brother Nick? Okay, so just only saying that they said they received my instructions. They know what I expect, but they chose to not hearken. They chose not to obey, right? Now, what did he say he was going to do right here in verse 8? What the end of verse 8? He said he was going to do something because they didn't obey. He said, I want to pour out my anger upon them, right? And now I want us to keep that mindset, what he was saying, like, well, look at verse 9. We're going to come in verse 9, and we're going to go from there.
Sir, verse 9. But I wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the heathen, among whom they were, in whose sight I made myself known unto them, in bringing them forth out of the land of Egypt.
So when we see that he was about to do something, but he did not, what we call that? Change your mind, or what was shown upon Israel? Grace, right? Grace was shown upon him, right? or we may say mercy, right? So this is what I was going to do. You deserve this. This was going to happen, but I chose not to do it, right? So basically, I had mercy upon you because you deserve this wrath that because you didn't what? You didn't obey these commandments right here, correct? All right, verse 10.
Verse 10. Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt, and brought them into the wilderness. And I gave them my statutes, and showed them my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them.
So verse 11, say if a man do, he shall even live in them. If a man do what? If it's a statute, right? If he do that, then what's going to happen with him? He going to what? He going to live. If a man do, he shall live, right? So right off, we know they didn't what? They didn't do it. So that means they really shouldn't what? Shouldn't live. Right? If a man do, he shall what? Even live in them, right? Okay. Next verse.
Verse 12. Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am Yahuwah that sanctify them.
Mm-hmm.
But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They walked not in my statutes, and they despised my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them.
So we keep saying that. If a man do, he gonna what? He shall even live in them, right? Go ahead.
And my Sabbaths they greatly polluted. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them.
All right, I want to stop right there. And we see again, he didn't what? He didn't do it. He showed what? He showed mercy upon Israel, right? But we do see, if you do these right here, what I command you, those statutes, if a man do, he shall live by, right? Let's go back to Romans 10. Go back to Romans 10. I want to read this one verse, Brother Nick. Let's look at verse 5. We stopped on verse 4. Romans 10, we're going to read verse 5. Basically what we just read there, if a man do, he shall live by.
Hallelujah. Verse 5.
Mm-hmm.
For Moses described the righteousness which is of the law,
Mm-hmm.
that the man which do those things shall live by them.
So he already let you know that's the righteousness of the what? The law. That if a man shall do, he shall what? Gonna live by, right? But we realize that Israel, they didn't what? They didn't attain to the law of righteousness. They didn't attain to it. And let's go to Galatians chapter 3 now. Galatians 3. Again, I just want to lay this foundation because we get to part 2, Yahweh is going to go to why the importance of why he's the end of the law for righteousness' sake. Galatians 3, pick it up at verse 11. Read those two verses, 11 and 12. Galatians 3. All right. Verse 11 and 12.
Verse 11. But that no man is justified by the law in the sight of Elohim. It is evident, for the just shall live by faith.
So when it say it is evident, what's another thing to say basically? It is evident. It is shown, right? It's there, right? The just shall live by faith, right? But it said no man is justified by the law in the sight of Elohim. No man is justified by the law. Remember in verse 1 we went over, they were saying that for Israel to be saved, right? For justification, right? We want to be justified. And to be justified, that's something that you have to do something that you may live. So you have, like you said, a court and say, I have witnesses, I got proof, to show my actions, to show this. Oh yeah, well, you justified in what you presented. But right here, we do see that no man is justified by the law of the sight of Elohim, and is evident for the just to live by faith. Verse 12.
And the law is not of faith, but the man that do them shall live in them.
There it is again. Now, we let us know right off, the law is not of faith. And some of you can read this here. See there it is, we shouldn't be obeying the laws, right? But that's why I want to go to that point, the law for righteousness' sake. Because we're talking about living. We're talking about being justified. Living and being justified. So he said, if a man do these things, he shall live, right? And we see here, that's why no man is going to be justified by the law, because who did it? Who can say I'm justified by him? We know one that can be justified by him, and we call him Yahushua. But for us, we're going to see how what was done in the past is going to help our future as well. Because again, it's going to be like a full circle when we lay this foundation and then show the things that'll be, and then showing how beautiful it is where the obedience towards Yah and how he put this all together. Even go to stay in Galatians, Nick, go to chapter 5, because Paul was adamant about it as well. You like, wow, you keep seeing his whole thing. He wanted Israel to be saved. He wanted people to be saved, and let you know that the way they was going about it, they had a zeal, but not according to knowledge, because they trying to do their own righteousness and then submit to the righteousness of who? Elohim, right? That's a big thing, because hold on, is the righteousness of Elohim the law? I want y'all to see how people can easily, get confused on these things here, because taking things not in its proper context. But we keep everything, let the scripture interpret itself. Well, they didn't submit to the righteousness of Elohim. They try to work their own righteousness, right? And we're going to see that after we read Galatians 5 to show how the difference those two are. Galatians 5, you read verse 3 and 4? Just read those two verses. Galatians 5, verses 3 and 4.
Sir, verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is a debtor to do the whole law.
Okay, Brother Nick, why is he a debtor to do the whole law? We just read it multiple times. If a man what? He shall bear. If he do those things, he gonna have to what? He gotta live by them, right? Because he want to be what? That person want to be saved, want to be justified, right? So verse 4 now.
Messiah is become of no effect unto you, whosoever of you are justified by the law. Ye are fallen from grace.
That's serious. That's serious. So that's why you see some people, they look at this here, like, man, and you got these certain times they'll quote this here, and you start talking about doing the laws and all that, say, man, you fallen from grace. Some of you probably even heard that before, right? But as we're going to see, why he say the Messiah then is becoming no effect unto you, whosoever you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace. And we're going to see how important that is and why he said that, all right? For example, I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit, Brother Nick. Can you go to Romans chapter 3? And let's see what, again, we're going to see the righteousness of Elohim, and we're going to see the law. We're going to see, like, well, man, they kind of go hand in hand. We know, we're going to see the difference when we're talking about justification. Read one verse for me. Romans chapter 3, read verse 21. Romans 3:21. What that say?
Yes, sir, verse 21.
Mm-hmm.
But now the righteousness of Elohim without the law is manifested.
Hold on. How can that be? How can the righteousness of Elohim be without the what? Without the law. How can that be? How can the righteousness of Elohim be without the law? I want y'all to see, right? We're talking about two different things, correct? We got the, read that again, verse 21, Brother Nick.
But now the righteousness of Elohim without the law is manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets.
Being witnessed by the law and the prophets, right? And you're going to see why I say the Messiah shouldn't profit you anything, because here it is now that we got the righteousness of Elohim has been displayed without the law being manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, being witnessed by the word itself. All right? And let's see about, because we have some people who, they was, when you see obeying the law and mindset, and we're going to see that, okay, when we bring it all together, when we see about why he's the end of the law for righteousness, then it starts making sense all the way around, because we got to put all these pieces together, all right? Because we're seeing now there is a righteousness of Elohim apart from the law. There is. Mm-hmm.
What law are we talking about here? Because I know that there are laws
Mm-hmm.
of righteousness, the law of and we have the law of sin. So which law is being specified here?
When you see here, we go back to
That one without, like it says, but now the righteousness of God without the law. So without the law. So
mm-hmm.
okay, now which law? Because we cannot separate the righteousness of God without the law of God. I mean, like law of God cannot separate himself. God cannot separate himself from his law because that's his character, right?
Yeah, we're gonna and I understand exactly, because I know that's why this is gonna matter. It's gonna be an in-depth study right here.
Maybe it's ceremonial.
It's gonna, but now we can't.
Maybe when
Yeah, you're not gonna find ceremony in the scriptures. But what we're gonna see though, when you say what law, right? Go back to Romans chapter 10, and can you read verse 5 again, Brother Nick? Romans 10, verse 5.
Yes, sir. Verse 5.
Mm-hmm.
For Moses described the righteousness which is of the law, that the man which do those things shall live by them.
So when we say which law, we talking about that law. We talking about we would call the law of Moses, or we say the law, where did Moses get that law from? So, and that's why it's so important where we say the righteousness. Yeah, we understand about the character. We're going to understand, that's why you're going to see this full circle right here. But right off, we understand that there is a law where he said that it's a part, and when we get to, since we're there, we'll go ahead and kind of see which law. Let's kind of answer that question then about, let's keep it in context. Brother Nick, go back to where we was at in Romans chapter 3. We read verse 21. Now pick it up at verse 19. He's going to answer too, which law we talking about. Romans 3, and read verse 19.
Sir, verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know that what things soever the law said, it say to them who are under the law,
Mm-hmm.
that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before Elohim.
So let me ask you, right off, that all the world may become what? Guilty before Elohim, that every mouth may be what? Stopped. No one can bypass this here. Everybody will be guilty. Which law is this?
But the law of this is the law of sin.
So that's what we say. So now, who made the law? We would say law of sin is still the law anything that goes against the Most High is what? It's sin. So I know them just titles that people put, you know, when he say this is the law of sin, like in Romans chapter 7. But basically it was the same thing in Romans chapter 7. It says that what? We understand that as a what? Members in my body, you got the law of sin and death, right? But the law of sin and death deal with when you disobey the law. When you said in Romans 7:7, I had not known sin but by the what? By the law. I had not known thou shalt not covet, right? Lust, except the commandment said thou shalt not covet, right? So we said here, every mouth may be stopped. Did you read verse 20?
Yes, sir, verse 20.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin.
So we understand this now. By the works of the law, by the deeds of the law, no flesh is going to be justified in his sight. Because why? The law just showed forth our what? Our sin, right? So that's why everybody going to be guilty before it, because everybody what? Everybody sinned. That's why it's evident we read, the just shall live by faith. We're not going by it on our own, in which you're going to see examples right now. Let's see an example of this right here. You go to Philippians chapter 3. Philippians chapter 3. We know the writer of Philippians who? Shual, right? Paul, right? So we understand that this is so important because you have someone who, he's going to kind of explain his pedigree a little bit, and we're going to go by this same mindset. Start at verse 1, Brother Nick. Philippians chapter 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. We're going to read verses 1 through 6. Philippians chapter 3, pick it up at verse 1.
Yes, sir. Verse 1. Finally, my brethren, rejoice in Yahuwah. To write the same things to you, to me indeed is not grievous, but for you it is safe.
Yes.
Beware of dogs, beware of evil workers, beware of the concision.
So again, I want to see what he said in verse 1. I write the same things to you. I'm writing the same thing. This is nothing new, right? And he let you know that, hey, it's not grievous, right? This is not what I'm, and he also said that, but for you it's safe. This is where it's at. And he told beware of dogs, beware of what is concision? Those who are trying to promote what? They are trying to promote the deeds of the law when they're trying to promote circumcision on, right? They were trying to promote this on. Keep going.
Verse 3. For we are the circumcision which worship Yahuwah in the spirit, and rejoice in Messiah Yeshua, and have no confidence in the flesh.
And we're going to get to this here. And have no confidence in the flesh. What does that mean? See, we're not having confidence in our own what? Our own abilities. What we have, that's not where our confidence is going to come in at. On my righteousness, right? That's not where we don't have no confidence in this flesh, right? And that's why Paul could kind of explain this, what he meant by this. Go ahead, verse 4.
Though I might also have confidence in the flesh. If any other man think that he had whereof he might trust in the flesh, I more.
I like Paul when he do that. Like, come with it then. If you think, okay, you think you got confidence in you, he said, I can have confidence in the flesh. Any man think that, he said, I more. I'm gonna show you I outdo you. Right? So you're thinking that if you're even on my level, you sure should have confidence in this thing. Right? That's what he's saying, right? I what? I more. Let me tell you why he can say why he's more. Next verse.
Circumcised the 8th day.
Circumcised the 8th day.
Of the stock of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Of the tribe of Benjamin. And Hebrew of the Hebrews.
Hebrew of Hebrews. I like that. Hebrew of Hebrews. I know you're a Hebrew, but I'm a Hebrew of Hebrews. I know you Edomites. Y'all Hebrew. But guess what? Hebrew of Hebrews. Right? I know you children in Moab. Moab, you know, they what? They Hebrew. But we Hebrew of Hebrews. Stock of Israel. Right? You Ammonite. Yeah, y'all Hebrew. But I'm Hebrew of Hebrew. He let you know. What does he say?
As touching the law, a Pharisee.
Stop. As touching the law, Pharisee. What they say? Ooh wee. Yeah, that what they say. That right there just, and they know that too. It's kind of like when we think about in the natural things, right? I'm not putting a natural individual, or you say, I don't like really using these secular college, but we kind of have our mindset. Think about somebody got a PhD on top of another PhD from Yale and Harvard. You'll think that person, oh man, yeah, he pretty what? Well, she pretty smart, right? They got a PhD from Cornell. I got a PhD from Yale. I got a PhD from Harvard. And I got a PhD from Stanford. Man, that dude. Can you go to hold your spot? Go to Acts 26. Acts 26. Read verse 4 and 5. Acts 26, verse 4 and 5. I used to in Oak Cliff with the basketball. We said, yeah, I went to the K. Oh, okay. Yeah, we know you can go. He said, Kim, you say, oh yeah. Well, I got you, man. You wear their shirts. Hey, football. You say, I went to Carter. Oh, no, yeah, dude, you played. What they say about Acts 26 verses 4 and 5?
Verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
My manner of life from my youth, which was at the first among my own nation at Jerusalem, know all the Jews. Verse 5. Which knew me from the beginning, if they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our religion, I live a Pharisee.
Like they said, listen, they know. Look, if they testify to it, they'll know from my youth up. And Paul said, look, I even outdid my companions, right? And he said, they know I live the straightest, the straightest set of our religion, which is what? Pharisee. Now, don't get me wrong, Pharisees got credits. They got, what the Messiah said, unless your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the scribe and the who? Pharisee, you are not even going to enter the what? The kingdom. Right? So go back to Philippians. So he let you know as touching the law, Pharisee. Verse 6. Philippians 3, verse 6.
Verse 6. Concerning zeal, persecuting the assembly, touching the righteousness which is in the law, blameless.
So now here go Paul, who letting you know that as touching the righteousness which is in the law, he said he's blameless. He's blameless, right? So he said, if anybody want to boast in the flesh, I can boast, right? And we're going to see why that's not enough. That's not enough. See how that make people feel. And kind of Paul had that same mindset. He go to Luke 18. See an example, another one, how they felt that, I'm about to be justified by my flesh, by how my works in his law and all these things here. You read Luke 18, verse 9. We're going to read 9 through 14. Luke 18, we're going to pick up at verse 9 through 14. Luke 18, we're going to pick up at verse 9.
So verse 9.
Uh-huh.
And he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others.
Mm-hmm.
2 men went up into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican.
Why do you think he put a Pharisee? Because people understood what a Pharisee. Like Nicodemus a Pharisee? And he said, man, you are what? You're a teacher of Israel. You know these things. He was a Pharisee, right? So he's saying now he got this person, no, we're dealing with a Pharisee. We're dealing with somebody who's supposed to know the law. They supposed to know basically what they talking about. All right, go ahead.
Verse 11. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself, Elohim, I thank thee that I am not as the other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican.
Ain't that so right there? I mean, they both in there praying, right? And I thank thee, Heavenly Father, I'm not like these other men, man. They are extortioners, they are unjust, they are adulterers. And look at that old publican over there. I ain't nothing like him. Go ahead.
I fast twice in the week. I give tithes of all
I'm sorry,
that I possess.
verse 11. I'm sorry, verse 12. When you say I fast twice a week, go ahead.
I give tithes of all that I possess.
Let me ask y'all a question. It's personal, yeah. Anybody here fast twice a week? Twice a week. So I fast twice a week. You said I tithe everything, right? I mean, they even tithe the very seeds of everything, right? Which he commanded, he said, this is what you're supposed to do. You know, doing that right there. But he said, man, he let you know, he what? He hitting that chest, right? Showing what? This is what I do. Showing how righteous I am. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And the publican standing afar off would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, Elohim, be merciful to me, a sinner.
Y'all remember we read Ezekiel. They deserved the wrath, but who showed mercy on them? Most High, right? And he said, I want to pour out my anger again. I'm going to pour it. But he said, for my name's sake, I'm not going to do it, right? This morning right here said, have mercy on me, heavenly. Or what? I'm a sinner, right? Next verse.
Verse 14. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone that exalted himself shall be abased, and he that humbled himself shall be exalted.
And this is going to be kind of the part of the lesson as well about who humbling themselves. That's why I said we see this full circle. We're going to see why we're going to be the righteousness of Elohim, and the Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness. Because we're going to see this here is a good example of what we're going to talk about. So we see here, who left justified? Was it the Pharisee or that publican? We know the publican was left because he humbled himself. He recognized that he was a what? Now that Pharisee, he depended on what? His own actions. What he did. I'm glad I do this, I do this. I'm basically keeping the law, doing anything. And he said he wasn't even justified. He wasn't justified. Because guess what? I guarantee that Pharisee, he still was a what? Still was a sinner. Right? Let's go to Acts chapter 15. Acts 15. And there's going to be a condemn. I know, Brother Mike, we got to get out of here soon. Acts 15, let's pick it up at verse 1. Let's read 1 and 2. Acts 15, verse 1 and 2. We are familiar with this, the Jerusalem Council. And the important thing you're going to see here, we know who they're talking about, but in this context, let's see what's being said. Acts 15, pick it up at verse 1.
Sir, verse 1. And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren, and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved.
Now, do we want to be justified in the eyes of the Most High? We do, right? Now we says, now this one says, except they be circumcised in the manner, they cannot be saved. That's so serious right there. So then you know, if they don't do this right here, they can't be saved. Verse 2.
When therefore Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and disputation with them, they determined that Paul and Barnabas and certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem unto the apostles and elders about this question.
Because man, see there, this was so serious. They're like, this is not nothing to take lightly. Y'all need to go to the apostles and the elders in Jerusalem and handle this. What's the question? Exactly. After they what? After the man of Moses, they cannot be saved, right? So, when we dealing with this here, we're showing a whole, and we're going to get to it. Drop down to verse 5. We're going to read 5 through 11. Let's see what's being said right here.
Verse 5.
Mm-hmm.
But there rose up certain of the sect of the Pharisees, which believed, saying that it was needful to circumcise them, and to command them to keep the law of Moses.
So now we understand why do you see this set right here? Because the Pharisees, there were some people that what? They had confidence in their, they mindset was like, yeah, they must, it's needful they had to do this right here in order to be, because this is what the law required. They got to keep the law, and they got to do these things right here, right? Verse 6.
And the apostles and elders came together for to consider of this matter.
Mm-hmm.
And when there had been much disputing, Peter rose up and said unto them, Men and brethren, you know how that a good while ago Elohim made choice among us, that the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the good news and believe.
So who remember when this Peter talking? When did this happen? When did Peter introduce this to the Gentiles? Exactly. Cornelius, right? He brought this here, and remember in Acts 10, this was being discussed right here. Okay? Next verse.
Verse 8. And Elohim, which knoweth the hearts, bear them witness, giving them the Holy Spirit, even as he did unto us.
Verse 9.
And put no difference between us and them, purifying their hearts by faith.
And these were, for example, because that's another topic, but they were Gentiles, right? They wasn't children of Israel who lived in Greece.
They were.
These were actually Gentiles.
These were actually, they was Hebrews, but when they got dispersed throughout all the land, they went in and took on their customs, and then they became Gentiles.
Well-
Because two sets of Gentiles.
Well,
Nation.
we say, yeah, and now we say the picking up the Hellenistic ways, because remember, like, and that's the example, Israel even called Gentiles when they do things
They went all over and
wicked.
became Gentiles.
But right here, though, when we start seeing, when he talked to Cornelius himself wasn't of any tribe of Israel, right? He was one, because when you see what Peter said of another nation, well, the law was given to who? Israel. All, so Israel was one nation at that time, right? When the law was given to them. And when you see in Romans chapter, we'll get there later on, Romans chapter 3, you saw it verse 1, but it was like, when they see what this here, well, who was the law given to? It was given to Israel, the very oracles there. That's why I said, what advantage had a Jew over the what? The Gentiles, right? Because he said chiefly because the very oracles of Elohim was given to them. Well, we know at that point, it wasn't any division, different kingdoms with Israel. It was just one nation. So when we say about another nation, we know that's talking about somebody outside of what?
Wait a minute, it's two nations.
Well, like for example, give an example.
Judah and the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. When they did their split, they
Mhm.
still split to today. That's why they make you think that all of Israel is over there but no, that Judah never left. But Israel got spun around the whole
Mhm.
world, and they became Gentiles, mixed in with these people. And when they came mixed in with these people, God sent these people to them, to the Jews that became Gentiles, not to the other nations. Because when you see nations, you think about Israel. When you see nations, you think about the other nations. But this whole thing is exclusive. It's exclusive.
For
Because
Israel.
He had already brought in the stranger back in Exodus. One law for you and one law for the stranger. And that's why he rattles on for a long time, and then he brings in the word heathen. That trigger right there, heathen. So the whole time he's talking to Israel. This is all Israel.
Well, let me ask you this here. Well, we're gonna go to it and we're gonna go from there. But like when I said, if we go back to, and I want to stay on our point here. This is why I gave an example. If we go to Romans chapter 3 real fast. Romans 3 real fast. Romans 3. because this is something. Let's start at verse 1, and let's just read, and let's read verse 1 and 2.
Yes, sir, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
What advantage then had the Jew? Or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of Elohim.
So we say them, what we're talking about when he gave a distinction between the very oracles on Mount Sinai was given to all 12 tribes of Israel. It wasn't in it. So when we say the oracles of Elohim, this was given to all of them. So now you got to show a separation between them, because it's very chiefly, everybody say what was given to them. It wasn't like the tribe of Manasseh can say, I'm over you, tribe of Judah, because I received the oracles of Elohim. The tribe of Manasseh was there too on Mount Sinai. Same as the tribe of Dan, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. All of them was on what? They was under Mount Sinai. So can't none of them say, chiefly, I received the oracles, but you didn't. They all received it.
God said Ephraim is not my people.
But that, now, when we just talking about Mount Sinai right now.
Okay.
So this right here, remember you talking about, that's 100 years in the future. That's 100 years down the line. When the tribe, you're absolutely right. When the tribe, we know the history where with Solomon, it split Rehoboam and Jeroboam. When Rehoboam, after the prophet Ahijah, when he told him split them sheep, them garment, and gave what? Those two different to Jeroboam, said, you're going to reign over these 10, I don't want to reign Judah. So we know how when the kingdom was split. But we're talking about hundreds of years before that on Mount Sinai when they received the law. All 12 tribes heard the law of Elohim. All right? So now, when we go here, what chiefly because they committed very oracles of Elohim, right? Now, if you stay right there and you stay in chapter 3, and they're going to let you know, well, is he the Elohim of the Jews only? We know that he's of the Gentiles as well, but we're going to get more on that too. But I want to show here, when Peter was talking, Cornelius, that when it was first introduced, where we're talking about this gospel here, the good news, for they to believe in this one who was coming, Yeshua. All right? Can you go back to Acts right quick? Acts chapter, where we left off, 15, and pick it back up where you left off at. I want to say,
Yes, sir.
verse 6.
10. Yeah, Acts 15, verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
Now therefore, why tempt ye Elohim to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear?
Now that's because I want us to really concentrate on this right here. So Peter stood up and said, okay, Pharisees, I heard what y'all saying. And then they came and one of the dispute among them. And he said, he came to him. In verse 10, he said, now therefore, why tempt ye Elohim to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? Now you know, what was that yoke? What was the yoke?
Circumcision.
Remember, well, hello. Let me ask you a question then. Was Peter circumcised? Was James circumcised? Were all the apostles circumcised? They had that. That was done. They were circumcised. They had that. Right? But remember he said, you are destined to do the what? The whole law. That's why he said now, and what we call bondage, when you break the law, we call that what? Sin. And sin is what we call what? Which is bondage. Why put this yoke of bondage on them, which we know our what? Fathers was able to keep. We didn't even obey the law. Why are you putting this on disciples now? We weren't able to do it. Our father wasn't able to do it. So why are you going to put it on them now? You see that? I might say, why tempt Elohim? Why y'all going to tempt him? What do you mean tempt him? We just read. Remember he said, I'm going to do what? I'm going to pour this wrath upon you if you don't what? Keep all the laws, statutes, and commandments. And he said, now why y'all want to tempt Elohim then? Why y'all want to put this yoke? Why y'all? Because y'all know we didn't do it. We disobeyed him. Our fathers what? Disobeyed him. Why y'all want to put it on them? Y'all see how that's making sense right there? Why tempt ye him? What the next verse? What did he say?
Verse 11. For we believe that through the grace of the sovereign Yahushuа Messiah, we shall be saved, even as they.
We believe in the what? The grace that's going to come. Because why? This is going to be so important that we see this go around. I'm going to go more in depth in part 2, Yahweh, but I want y'all to see just on the foundation what was showed in Ezekiel chapter 3 when that wrath was going to be poured. He said what? That grace was showed upon him. That mercy was showed upon him. Right? So he told him, why tempt ye him? Let's go to Galatians chapter 6. Let's see another example. Because Peter understood that he himself, well, before we go there, Brother Nick, let's see an example why Paul had to go to Galatians 2, then we're going to go to Galatians 6. And go to Galatians 2, and we're going to pick up at verse 11. Galatians 2, pick up at verse 11. See, Peter understood this as well, and Paul. But watch how it kind of went in one ear with Peter, because Peter was still dealing with what we call, he was prejudiced. I mean, that's what it was. Peter mindset, and he had to grow out of it. That's why the Messiah, that's why you saw when that sheep came down, he had a different manner of what? And he told him, because without that vision, you think Peter would have went into that house of that Gentile? No. He had to show him, what I cleansed, thou shalt not call what? Come. Because why? Because it was built into him, because think about it. It's just a natural thing. We looked at the Samaritans, they look at them, they call them as what? You are unclean. You nothing but some dogs. You're not pure. Which is true, like you said, they didn't know because salvation come through who? The Jews. He said, we know who we worship, but y'all don't know who y'all worship. But who know who served him? Y'all know those that belong to him. Peter didn't have a clue who Cornelius was and what Cornelius was doing. But look at this here, Galatians chapter 2, pick up at verse 11, Brother Nick. Galatians chapter 2, pick up at verse 11.
Verse 11.
Mm-hmm.
But when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face, because he was to be blamed.
He was to be what? Now this was an apostle, right? Who already knew about dealing with Gentiles. And now here it is, when the circumcision came, we can't call who? Israel, Jew, and they came. What did Peter do? Look at next verse.
Verse 12.
Mm-hmm.
For before that certain came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles.
Was they eating pork sausages? We had this cause in this what we call subjective teaching. When you can put something, see, they was eating with the Gentiles. See what I'm saying? They were eating with them Gentiles. See, that's why you can eat that. You don't say none of it. You can't see pork nowhere in there. They said they was eating. But they throw in, when they was eating some pork chops or something up in there.
Isn't that the same when they was, when you're talking about in Acts, what the Peter's vision, when he came to, the angel came down and told him about, the clean and unclean, you don't call, people clean and unclean.
Yeah, yeah.
People subjectively teach that as well, because I've heard that a while too, as far as like, he whatever, like, no.
Yeah. If they just keep on reading, Acts 10:28 gave the revelation.
It's not really here. It's not really about the food.
No. That's what we're about to get to now. It got nothing to do with the food. Keep going, Brother Nick.
Yes, sir. But when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision.
Hold on now. Come on, Peter. Come on, Peter. Fearing them that was of the circumcision, right? Now, that's why Paul had to confront this dude, man. Had to confront him. Because he's the one to blame. Because here you are It was given to you to the circumcision to go out. So you are what you call, you a leader, Peter. And here you are, you acting this way, then what is going to happen? You saw what happened, right? It was a what? People started doing the same thing. Barnabas followed. That's why Paul said, you to blame. You didn't stand. Keep going.
13.
Mm-hmm.
And the other Jews disassembled likewise with him.
Wow. They did exactly the same thing. Go ahead.
Insomuch that Barnabas also was carried away with their dissimulation.
So you see why? Because why? They follow who? They follow Peter. And Peter, that's why he said, look, if you want to do what you did, so you gotta what? That's why you set that example. That's why you see our children. They seeing you, they watching you, certain things. The example you set, you don't know who you influence. You just don't know. Go ahead. We're gonna stop at verse 21. Go ahead.
But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the good news, I said unto Peter before them all, if thou being a Jew live after the manner of Gentiles, and not as do the Jews, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as do the Jews?
So a lot of times we kind of get confused. We're like, man, what does that mean? But like in this, when we seeing this here, right? Because we already know the Gentiles didn't know who. They didn't know Elohim, right? Their mindset was what it was. They worshiped idols. They were doing what they was doing. And now they coming in. And now he told them, now, here you are. Why are you then, you living like you compel us basically like this here. You being a Jew, right? You know the truth. You supposed to be walking upright, you know. But you what? You live out the manner of the Gentiles and not as do the Jews. You basically living a life, you acting basically sinful right now. Then he tell them, then why you what? Why compel us out of Gentiles to live? Because you're not doing it. Why are you telling them to do something that you're not what? You're not doing. Now you're going to tell them, look at the next verse.
We who are Jews by nature and not sinners of the Gentiles.
Now what? Not sinners of the Gentiles. Peter, you know better. Why you compelling them to do something that you're not doing? They looking at you, and now they look how that made them feel. I mean, that's why I said, man, I guess I need to be what? I want to fit in with it. I need to, nah. Now, look at the next verse. This is what I want to get to. Go ahead.
Verse 16. Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Yahushuа Messiah. Even we have believed in Yahushua Messiah, that we might be justified by the faith of Messiah, and not by the works of the law.
Now, before you read that next part, who is this talking right now?
Paul.
It's Paul, right? Remember, Paul was a what? A Pharisee, right? He said, man, I can boast in the flesh, right? But here, this guy here, Hebrew, from the tribe of Benjamin, of the strictest set of the religion, a Pharisee, he let you know, I mean, you and I know, we both what? We know that a man is not justified by the works of the law. He let Peter know this right here. Now read that last part right there in that verse 16.
For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified.
It's not going to happen. Period. It's not going to happen. Verse 17.
But if, while we seek to be justified by Messiah, we ourselves also are found sinners. If therefore Messiah, the minister of sin, certainly not.
So in verse 17, what is he saying right there? If he's saying if we're trying to be justified by the Messiah, what is Paul saying? If you're trying to be justified by the Messiah. It's right there. We got it. If you're trying to be justified, but if we all trying to be justified by the Messiah, what did that let us know? That we sinners. That we sinners. We're not dependent on the what? Our own works. We ain't dependent on the works. That's why he said, come on, Peter. If we trying to be justified by the Messiah, that let us know, Peter, that we too are what? We too are sinners. So you circumcised, I'm circumcised, I'm a Benjamite, you from Galilee, these sort of say for a Jew as well. I don't see where they say where Peter, what tribe he was from. was not even from the tribe of, we could say,
Fisherman.
a fisherman. But we know he was what? He was a Jew, either from the tribe of Benjamin or from the tribe of Judah, right? He wasn't a priest, so we know he wasn't no Levite. So here we go. He let you know. Now keep reading that in that verse there.
Verse 18.
Mm-hmm.
For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor.
Make myself a transgressor. And I like what he said in verse 17. He say, is the Messiah the minister of sin, y'all? So he said, Yah forbid. So Peter, what you doing, when you showing that partiality, what are you doing, Peter? You sinning. You know, show partiality. We all one, and that's what he's trying to let him know. And here you are, you showing partiality, Peter. So he let you know, we what? We not trying to be justified by the works of this law. We too are sinners. Go ahead. He said, now, if I build again those very things I destroy, I make myself a transgressor. What are we trying to destroy? We're trying to destroy his flesh. We're trying to destroy this wickedness. We don't want to build everything that we're supposed to be what? Done away with. Exactly. Go ahead.
Verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
For I through the law am dead to the law, that I might live unto Elohim.
That's the whole thing. I, through the law, am dead to the law, that I may live unto Elohim. And we're going to get to, because why? What did the law did its job. What did the law do to us? It slew us.
Mm-hmm.
It did its work, because why? A man shall live if he do what? If he do it. If you obey him, then you'll be like, let me tell you, you cannot, look, I can stand right here and I tell you, I kept all, I didn't mess up not one time. You'd be like, you know you wrong. And that's how their mindset was. They were being justified by what? By the works of the law. And that's why he told them, now, I'm dead to the law, that I may live through it, because I know that's where my life will come in. Verse 20.
I am impaled with Messiah. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Messiah living in me.
Mm-hmm.
And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of Yahuwah, who loved me and gave himself for me.
Hallelujah. Verse 21.
I do not frustrate the grace of Elohim, for if righteousness come by the law, then Messiah is dead in vain.
So let me ask y'all a question. Why did Messiah die in the first place? For sinners, right? He died because we was what? We were sinners. So then, let me ask you, which law then, because we're saying righteousness came by the law, then that means the Messiah died in vain. So let you know, it wasn't no law out there that could what? That can save you. It wasn't. So we would say, when people say, I know you're saying, but they say different, which law? Which any law? If you say you kept the Sabbath perfectly all your life, can that save you? I honor my father and mother all the time. But guess what? You're a sinner. So we know there's not one law that can say, I've done this law here can give me life. It's not happening. So that's why he said, well, that's the case, then if righteousness can come by the law, then that means the Messiah didn't have to come. Because the law was already what? It was already here. I mean, he died what? He died in vain. So we know that can't be it right there. Because we know the Messiah what? He died and he did what? He rose from the, and that's why you're going to see apart from the law. When he say, we're going to see something, what it means by the end of the for righteousness' sake. We're going to see this full picture in a little bit. Just bear with it. Keep going. I'm sorry. We done with that right there? Yes, Brother Nick, you mind going now? Let's look at Romans. I know we got a couple more places, you all. Let's go back to Galatians 6. We did Galatians 2 right there. Go to Galatians chapter 6. Let's see about those. Even let's look at one big one, because you keep seeing throughout they talking about circumcision. But look at Galatians chapter 6 and look at verse 12. Let's read verses 12 and 13. Galatians 6, 12 and 13. So I'm telling you, these are some verses that can trip a lot of people when we don't But we see in the context, when we see exactly what it's saying, then, because if you don't know, when we get to another part, then you understand what Paul is mentioning here. Because we know righteousness still is here. Read verse 12 and 13.
Sir, verse 12.
Yes.
As many as desire to make a fair show in the flesh, they constrain you to be circumcised, only lest they should suffer persecution for the sake of Messiah.
What it means then, it says they make a show in the flesh. As many desire to make a fair show in the flesh. There you go. He just,
What was the answer?
Oh, the brag.
he just bragged.
Right, that was one way of them showing that it was in the club.
Exactly. They look what I did. Oh, you see that dude right there? I got you here.
Let me show you.
Yeah, let me show you. Hey, I want to put my whole group to show how deep we are, baby. And come on, man. You see it all the time. They want to and we see that even now. It's sad, but it is now. Keep going.
Verse 13.
Verse 13.
For neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the law, but desire to have you circumcised, that they may glory in your flesh.
Hold on now. He said, now they are circumcised, correct? But they themselves don't even do what? They don't even keep the law. How did Paul know they don't keep the law?
But that was enough.
You know why you know they don't keep the law? Because they are what? What's that S word? Sinners. Because only way they're going to live, they got to keep the law how? They got to keep it perfectly, right? Right? All right. So that's why he told them, even though you may be this here, you still ain't keeping the law. Look at Romans 2:25. Romans 2:25. Brother Nick brought this up Tuesday on the call, and we kind of know this story here, but this is true. When you're talking about the laws and commandments, that's why you see these Tanakh only groups. That's why we want to see who they really are. When we get to this here, I'm gonna say the word gonna show you who they are. You're gonna see exactly where they come from. Go ahead.
Verse 25.
Mm-hmm.
For circumcision verily profit, if thou keep the law. But if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision.
So it does profit if you do what? If you keep the law, right? So we see, like you said, a man shall live by him if he what? If he do them, right? He gonna live if he do them. But if you don't do it, if you sin just one time, it's done for you. You deserve what? You deserve death. Let's go to Romans 4. And when we got 4 more books. I can't tell you how many verses, but 4 more books. Then we're gonna close it after that. Let's go to Romans 4. We're gonna kind of go into what we're gonna get into y'all with next week. I mean, not next week, the following week. After that. Romans 4, pick up at verse 1. Romans 4, we're gonna pick it up at verse 1.
Sir, book of Romans chapter 4, verse
Read 1 through 5.
Verse 1. What shall we say then? That Abraham our father, as pertaining to the flesh, had found?
Mm-hmm.
For if Abraham were justified by works, he had whereof to glory, but not before Elohim.
But why not? Why you couldn't glory? Because it said if Abraham were justified by the works, he had wherewith to glory, but not before Yah, not before Elohim. Why not? We're gonna see what, because this is something right here, because it said, look, as pertaining to the flesh have found. No, Abraham our father, as pertaining to the flesh, have found that, if he had it by works, then he'll have someone to glory. But say he can't glory before Elohim, though. There's a reason why. Verse 3.
For what said the scripture? Abraham believed Elohim, and it was counted unto him for righteousness.
It was counted to him for righteousness because he believed in who? Elohim. Okay, go ahead. Verse 4.
Now to him that worketh is the reward, not reckoned of grace, but of debt.
Exactly. So basically, like you say, when you doing your thing, right, You looking for more of a reward, and this is gonna be coming out of there like saying, hey, this is what you owe me, right? This is what you owe. Go ahead.
Verse 5. But to him that work not, but believe on him that justify the wicked, his faith is counted for righteousness.
Hold on. To him that justify the wicked. So this individual here know that he himself is also, for us, we want to be justified. You justifying the, did it say the righteous? Justifying the who? Read that again. Read that again from that verse 5.
Verse 5. But to him that work not, but believe on him that justify the wicked, his faith is counted for righteousness.
What is that we seeing right there, you all, in verse 5? Put yourself there. Put yourself in verse 5.
Grace.
We seeing great, but we also seeing ourselves of what? We can say it. He just said it. We wicked. We're unholy, ungodly. Like you say, he that justified the what? The wicked. Now, you said, look at everybody kind of, hold up. Are you saying you not? What happened now? Because why? We not dependent. Oh, now we looking at, oh, no, man, who dare you to be? Man, I'm Benjamin right here. I ain't wicked. Now, he let him know, this is why. We believe in the one that able to justify the who? The ungodly, the wicked. Because put myself in that situation, I need that. Because I'm what? I'm wicked. Hey, right? It's just what it is. I'm not going to be here talking about it. Yeah, man, I've done everything he said, man. Y'all better look. I'm glowing right now. Nah. That's why we're going to see the difference between he's an end of the law for righteousness. We're going to see why. That's the end of verse 5?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go down. We already did Romans 3. Let's go now to Galatians. Let's go to Galatians chapter 3. Can you read verses 7 through 9? Galatians chapter 3, verses 7 through 9. And literally got 2 books after this, you all. Galatians 3. No, we gotta head out somewhere. Oh, I'm taking the part 2. Hey, we gonna be in for a minute. I'll tell y'all now. Yeah, I will. Make reservations. Don't make no reservations. It's Shabbat. That's what I'm saying. Galatians chapter 3, verse 7.
Sir, verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
Know ye therefore that they which are of faith, the same are the children of Abraham.
Go ahead, verse 8.
And the scripture foreseeing that Elohim would justify the heathen through faith, preached before the good news unto Abraham, saying, in thee shall all nations be blessed.
Let me ask y'all a question. He told them already, right? He's going to be preaching and said that all nations shall be what?
Blessed.
All nations going to be blessed, right? In these shall all nations be blessed. All right? Let's look at verse 9. Let me get this question.
Yes. So then, they which be of faith are blessed with faithful Abraham.
So, I want to go back to verse 8, where it says that just through faith, preach before the good news unto Abraham, saying, indeed shall all nations be blessed. We're going to get to this here. What we call this is called the promise. This is the promise. Because understand we say why, when we read Romans chapter 10, that he's an end of law for right, because he's going to be dealing with this promise right here. We talking about in part 2. Yeah, I will. So, this is so key here. Drop down to 26. Read 26 through 29. We're going to see what this promise. 26 through 29.
Verse 26. For ye are all the children of Yahuwah by faith in Messiah Yeshua. For as many of you as have been baptized in Messiah have put on Messiah. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female. For ye are all one in Messiah Yeshua.
And you see, that's why you see when Paul got on Peter, he was showing differences between one nation over another, no one group over another. He was letting them see that, hey, this is the situation right here. When we see this here, that indeed all nations are going to be blessed. Well, let's see this promise, what it was saying here. Let's go to Genesis 22. Read these 3 verses. Read 16 through 18. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Read verse 29. Closing 29.
Yes, sir.
This is still Galatians chapter 3. We're going to read verse 29.
And if ye be Messiahs, then are ye Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise.
What we say that promise is again? Well, what's the promise? It said the promise. What's the promise? That indeed, yeah, you're going to be what? All nations. And we're going to see, this is the promise that was given. Now let's go to Genesis to see this promise right here. Because I understand this promise, and we're going to see why all this got to take place. Read Genesis 22, verses 16 through 18. Genesis 22, 16 through 18.
Verse 16. And said, by myself have I sworn, said Yahuwah, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thy only son.
Now we seeing this. He's showing us something right here. This promise that's about to take place. But he did this when Abraham did something. What's this story here? What did Abraham do right here? He about to sacrifice Isaac, right? He about to do something, letting you know that what he actually did later on in that future right there. But actually, even though it's in the future time, when was the Messiah slain? When was he slain? Real quick, Brother Nick. Revelation 13, verse 8. Thank you. He was slain for the foundation of the world. That's why I see all sins is already been. When these people say, what about these people that was in the so-called Old Testament? You know why? What? Guess what? That blood right there gonna be covered by Messiah, because why? He was slain before the foundation of the world. But we don't got. I think. Where you go here? You read.
Okay. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world.
Revelation 13, verse 8. Can you go back to Genesis 22?
Sir, verse 17.
Verse 17.
That in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the sea, the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies.
Verse 18.
And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice.
And in what? And in thy seed shall all the nations be blessed, right? And this is the key we're going to get to, Yahweh, on part 2. Well, I want to close it. This is the last. Let's go to Romans 9. Let's close it right here. In Romans 9, so that's the promise. The promise of Abraham was that right. When he was about to do that with his son, he said, now, see, indeed now, all nations going to be blessed. Because we see a future thing going to happen when he did what he did. It had nothing to do with the what? When we said, Yah's righteousness apart from the what? From the law. So, at this time here, when he did it to Abraham, where was the law of Moses? The nation of Israel has not been what? Haven't been formed yet. Right? But we know that word Torah, what do Torah mean? Instructions, right? Mean teachings, right? So a lot of people say, well, you know, the first 5 books of Moses, you can't find it nowhere. No first 5 books of Moses. That's what we've been taught. Right? The Torah, the first 5 books of Moses. No. Guess what? The whole word is what? Instructions. Right? So we call this whole word what? Torah, right? Whatever he say is Torah, his teachings, right? But you know, you can just prove that. This is off the subject. When the Messiah, when they came to him, he said, is it not written in your law? What's that word law? As you look at Torah, that you are what? You are God? You are Elohim? Well, that's way after Moses was dead when he quoted that. That was in what? That's Psalms 82. Right? Is it not written? Right? Now, finish that off and let's go to, we done with that in Genesis.
Yes, sir.
So we see that was the promise. Indeed, all nations, let's close in Romans chapter 9. Let's read these last 7 verses. Romans chapter 9, and this is what we're going to transition into part 2, Yahweh. Romans chapter 9, we're going to start at verse 3. So this again, it's Paul pointing his heart out, dealing with the nation of Israel. Romans 9, and we're going to pick it up at verse 3.
Sir, verse 3. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Messiah for my brother, my kinsman according to the flesh.
Okay, so we know he only talking about Israel right here. His kinsman, right? And he let you know, because this is how you're going to come in when those get drafted into Israel, right? Because who are the promises made for? Israel. Who are the adoption made for? Israel. The covenants? Israel. Right? So this is for Israel, right? So keep going.
Verse 4. Who are Israelites to whom pertaineth the adoption, and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the service of Elohim, and the promises.
Yes.
Whose are the fathers, and of whom are concerning the flesh Messiah. Messiah came, who is over all Elohim blessed, forever. Amen.
And so he let you see here that this is pertaining to Israel, right? And let you know that, so when he said, we just read out the giving of the law, that was to Israel. That's why they chief above, because, and not saying that they are what? They are better than all other nations. It's just that they was what? They was chosen to be a what? A light for all other nations. You understand that? First what? First the Jew, then the Gentile. All right? So, this is what the situation here. Look at verse 6.
Not as though the word of Elohim had taken none effect. For they are not all Israel, which are of Israel.
Hold on, whoa now. Whoa. They are not all Israel that are Israel. Read that last part again, Brother Nick.
For they are not all Israel, which are of Israel.
So basically, you can have the natural descendants of Israelites, right? Let's go to 12 tribes. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin. Those are the 12 tribes, right? Joseph, we know what happened. Reuben slept with his mother-in-law. And then his firstborn blessing got taken away from him. Then he said, okay, I'm going to give it to Joseph. Joseph got a double portion, right? And then who was split for the land purposes? Because who didn't get a possession of land? Which tribe? Levi. Levi didn't get a possession. But who did? So now Levi didn't get a possession. So then Joseph got 2. So that's why when people ask you, name the 12 tribes, you got to be careful. You got to say the ones that Jacob begat or for land purposes. Because the land purposes, since we took what? We took Levi out. Joseph got 2. Ain't what we say in the land, you're going to see what? The tribe of Joseph. Which 2? What was Joseph's children's name? Manasseh and who? Ephraim. So now that's where you see now the land purposes, you're going to see Ephraim, Manasseh. You understand that? All right, so right here we see that not the descendants of Israel physically not all of them are called Israel. That's something. Because it's only dealing with who? Israel. But just because you're a descendant of Israel, don't mean that you are Israel. That makes sense? So you can be of the tribe of Benjamin, you can be a Hebrew. That don't change nothing. You still can be said of what? You're not even an Israelite. Why is it? We're going to get to that. Next verse.
Verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
Neither because they are the seed of Abraham. Are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed.
Hold on, sorry, you went too little too fast. Verse 7 again, Brother Nick.
Verse 7. Neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children.
Now, just because you are a seed of Abraham, right? That don't mean that you are what? You're a child of Abraham either. Remember, those who got, we read in Galatians chapter 3, we read in verses 26 to 29, we see who are the children of who? Of Abraham, the same faith in the Messiah, right? That's why I say no male, no female, Jew, Greek, bond or free, right? So we see here that he told us that even though you may be the seed of Abraham, are they all not children though, right? Because we're going to talk about the children. But in Isaac shall thy seed be called. So that eliminates a whole lot of people right there, right? Because we saw Esau was a child of Abraham, wasn't he?
Yep.
But guess what? Ishmael, again, we talking about the other ones, right? You got all these other ones that we seeing. But that because we only talking about one son now. Who that son? Isaac. That's why it's so important to see. Isaac. Keep going, Brother Nick, verse 8.
That is, that which are the children of the flesh. These are not the children of Elohim, but the children of the promise are counted for the seed.
And we just talking about that promise. What we say that promise was again? How all that's going to be blessed? Through that what? That seed. Who that seed? Well, we're going to get a little more deeper than that. Yeshua. Remember? Yeshua. Because remember, all they're going to be blessed through Isaac. Right? They're going to be blessed through who? Through you. But that's the ultimate promise. We say, indeed shall all nations be blessed. Right? Because remember, when Isaac, we saw the promise, we see Israel, who was dealing with? They're dealing with Israel. They the ones getting it. They supposed to have been a light for us, but they what? They didn't do it. Okay? Next verse.
Verse 9.
I want y'all, this is important, verse 8, for we can understand, because when we get to this, break it all down, and y'all got to know, it says what? They that are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of Elohim. So just know that. We're going to get to this here. Those are the children of flesh, they are not the children of Elohim. And I'm going to give you a little clue we're going to talk about. If they're not the children of Elohim, who are the children of? The devil. The children of Hasatan. And we're going to see why this is so important. Because we're going to see who are the children of Hasatan. Next verse.
Verse 9.
Last verse.
For this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son.
So we're going to see that, because like he just said, that son, Sarah's son, who was Sarah's only son? Isaac. And we know that was by a promise. It wasn't natural. We saw what happened with the natural. Who we got in natural? Hagar. And Hagar had who? There we go. Our old self. That flesh ain't no joke, ain't it? Well, you know what? Let me go ahead. Come on, go ahead and marry. I got this sister over here. Go ahead and marry her, because you got to fulfill this promise. See, that's what we're saying. We don't know the power. We got to know we're dealing with the Almighty. We're dealing with everlasting. We're dealing with one, he said, whose righteousness is going to be apart from. Who do you think the law is for anyway? For him? No, it's for who? For sinners. Who are all sinners? All of us. Right? So we're going to see why it's so important. Any questions? Thank you all for doing this here, for this foundation. Hope you've been blessed. Hallelujah. Gabe, okay, go, oh,
Yeah, if you go, you know, verse 7, right?
what book, chapter? I mean, what book?
Romans.
Romans,
Romans 9.
verse 7.
Yeah, so when we're talking about, you know, the not all, you know, like we talk about the tribes of Israel, like they are not there. You know, Manasseh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Manasseh and Israel, right?
Well, they part of, yeah, they part of Israel, yes, in the land, yes.
Part of Israel is the land. Okay.
Yes.
So if we take this,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go to Revelation where they say 144,000.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't this thing give you a clue about that those are not physical, you know, like those names there, that they don't represent the physical Israel.
I hear you saying on that.
Israel, because you see here,
Mm-hmm.
it tells us that there are people that are belong to Israel, but they are not, you know, from that specific tribe, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but they belong there. And then you take this, you go to, you know, that message in Revelation right there, where there are 144, then there are, you know, if you go back in the chapter, there in the chapter, it says, I see multitude.
Yes.
That have
You can't even number.
yeah.
Yeah.
Number. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it here that this explains the very, you know, explains, you know, that very number there, because I have seen a lot of argument on that. Some people say it's literal, some people say, but I'm leaning to say it's not literal.
That's another lesson.
Yeah, it kind of went over, but I understand that. Personally, I believe it is literal, but I understand what you're saying where you feel like it's maybe a spiritual Israel.
That's right.
You may throw that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's like you say, we can go in depth on that now. I like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We see here about not all the seed. This to me is literal, because we know all the seeds here, because Abraham had many children. He produced many nations. But we know that we talking about this one seed in particular here, talking about Isaac, because Isaac was the one that was birthed by Sarah. All right? And that was the promise. Exactly. That was the promise. That was something not what? Not natural. It was natural to the point as Abraham he gave Abraham some juice, but it was like, you know, Abraham, he got some strength to go and do that. But we see the Most High gave him that strength to do that. Right? Are we going to come up, Brother Gabe? Thank you all again. Praise God.
But it's difficult, but you know, the spirit of Yah here, you know, has given us shed some light here, so there's more understanding actually as it is. Praise Yah for His word today, and His blessings be upon the vessel that brought the message to us. So we see one of the things we learned today is about what pride can do, right? You know, we see between the two guys who went to the temple to pray, the Pharisees and we see, you know, Paul illustrate that when he was talking about what he is, Hebrew of Hebrews and all the qualifications he had. So we see he wasn't prideful because of all that. So we can see humility there. He said, all those things are nothing. You know, so in following the way, so I would call it the way, the true way, we have to be humble, because our Redeemer, Yeshua, was humble. He's still humble because he left. But you know, when we read in John, we see where he prayed and said, "Well, all that glory that I had with you in the beginning."
Right.
So we see that he was up there before then. He left it. That giving it is humility. So that is a show of humility for us who are following the way of Yeshua, to be that humble. because we see that says there are those anybody who is humble will be raised, but if you are prideful, raise yourself, you're going to be put down. So you don't want to be put down. So we praise Yah for the message that He has given us today. So, shall we pray?
Yes.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you are almighty. We have come to close this afternoon for the message that you have given to us in this assembly. Yeah, as we are closing, we are not leaving your presence because we know that your presence is everywhere, and we mostly acknowledge that when two or three are gathered in your name, yeah, your presence is, and we know that your presence is here this afternoon because we have heard the word of life. We thank you. Thank you for all that, and we thank you for your guidance and protection throughout the week. We come to this end of the week, the Sabbath day. Thank you for the food, this spiritual food that we have received. May it be rooted in our lives and be fruitful. Or as we go and into the world, as we are not of this world, may we show through the fruit that we don't belong here, that we are not of this world. By the way we interact with people and the way we show the example that we are the followers of the way, that we are not children of Satan, that we belong to the Most High God. So I pray this afternoon, Heavenly Father, for the families who are not here. You know why they are not here. Whatever the reason is, Heavenly Father, visit them one by one. And I pray for those other people who suffered the event of hurricane. Heavenly Father, I pray for your hand of comfort, the hands of healing for those who got hurt indeed. For you to wrap your hand around them, Heavenly Father, I pray. I pray for strength for all the believers, the true believers. For we see that things are changing quickly in this world as we live today. Heavenly Father, may your Spirit be with us so that we'll be deep-rooted in our belief, in our faith, so that we will not be train wreck like Paul put it to us. Pray that your power guide us. We pray that your word be our guiding light every day. Heavenly Father, I pray. I pray for the meal that will be served this afternoon. Thank you for that, Heavenly Father. I pray for it to be a nourishment to everyone who partakes of it. And bless all the hands that prepare it. Closing this prayer by also reciting Psalm 23. We pray. The Lord is my shepherd.
I shall not make me lay down in green pastures. Lead me beside still waters. Restore my soul. Lead me in the path of righteousness for thy name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fear no evil, for thou art with us. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort us. Thou preparest a table before us in the presence of our enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Hallelujah.
Oh, sure.
Here, right?
Oh, get it. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Announcements for today. Just real quick, everyone. Shalom, shalom, everybody. We are getting ready to proceed and have food, but I just want to give a quick announcement for the week. I know we had some people that's dropped off some goods for the home, our Feed the Neighbor night, and everything is going according to plan, right? Kenya, is everything that we need for the bags to give out for the shelters is on point?
Yes, I think we have everything we need. Thanks to everybody that donated money and the food. So we have everything. I went and got everything that we needed. Brendan, you got everything?
Yes.
And I think Rachel dropped off some water. So we have the bag stuff completed.
For this month, that's awesome.
So we'll
Praise
put
God.
all those things together tomorrow. I'll give it to Brandon and we'll set a time. So thanks everybody for the donations.
All right, yeah, praise God. And then, and following up with that, we are still planning on meeting the first Tuesday of this month, and we'll be meeting at the oh gosh, I just lost the name of it. I'll get that in the chat. Say the name. The Peacock. In Irving at the L station. I'm calling it L like I'm in Chicago. At the train station. Flashback. But at the Irving Metro stop, instead of being over here, but I'll give further notice in the WhatsApp chat and get that more organized. The other thing is we still are planning, and I do need to solidify the head counts for Sukkot. As we know, we are planning on being in Granbury. We will be out there for the actually a 10-day stay is what we've been given on the grounds just because of the way the Sabbath is falling. So I thank everybody who has committed so far, and the next question I'm gonna be asking you guys is for the shirts that are staying there or whatever, so we can get the shirt orders coming. But thank you for already putting that in, but they still have rooms available. So anyone that wants to still participate, we will be having services on Shabbats out at Granbury, sorry. We will still be having services on premises, so we do invite everyone to come out on Shabbat, spend the whole day. It will be fun. We'll have, whole activities and fellowship with everyone and being able to bond together. It's gonna be beautiful, so we can't wait for that. And so if you're interested, please let me know. And I did say some ladies that we also had the ladies chat that we're gonna be having once a week now. So we'll be opening that up. We'll have more details following with that. That was a blessing for us to be able to get together. So praise y'all for that. We're starting that off and we're gonna keep it strong. Am I missing anything else? Renee? Oh, the walking with the ladies. So Ranger Renee. Where are we gonna be at this week?
Grapevine.
We're at Grapevine?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful walk. So for anybody that doesn't know about that, we do that on Sunday mornings. The ladies get together in the mornings. We go for a walk, and not just any walk. We walk with Renee. That's taking walking to a whole new level. But it's fun. I mean, it's for all ages, all people, whatever, even families with the kids and the strollers. We'll make it work, but it's been very adventurous. And we do thank her for going out on the limb and getting us out of our comfort zones on Sunday mornings. So I think I got everything. With that said, we can close. I think that's it.
And last announcement, we're gonna have to shut down, clean up in the sanctuary early because they're gonna need it. They're coming around 5:30. They're having some type of service, so we gotta make sure we take everything with us to the atrium area in the back. Right.
Oh, you got an uncle.
Yeah, me,